Now, in honor of my attempt to grow my own ginger, I decided to make a batch of ginger wine. Hi, this is DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. To make my version of ginger wine, I'm going to be using about 16 ounces or about 450 grams of ginger root. I'm going to be using up to 4 cups of dark brown sugar. I'm going to be using 1 orange, the juice of half a lemon, 1 big handful or half a cup of raisins. I'm going to be using a Red Star Premier Blanc wine yeast. No special reason, just as it happens to be my go-to yeast. You can use anything you've got. We'll need about a gallon of water or 4 liters of water. We need a 1 gallon or 4 liter carboy, jug, demijohn, take your pick, to do fermentation in, an airlock with bung. And we'll be using either one step or star sand to do our sanitation with. We want to make sure that everything we use, all of our equipment, is going to be sanitized before we start this project. And that's what I'm going to be using to make this wine. Using your preferred method, the first thing we need to do is to remove the skins from our ginger. Now for this next step, we want to thinly slice our ginger. Now, just like you're making ginger tea. Now you can either use one of these, or you can use one of these, or you can use one of these. Either way, we just want to make sure that we can extract the juice from the ginger. So if you don't have any of those, I'm sure you've got one of these. So let's go ahead and thinly slice your ginger. Now that that's done using one of the earlier mentioned methods, although I will say it was pretty quick, we're now ready to move on to the next step. Since we're in the process of slicing things up, let's go ahead and slice up our orange. And let's go ahead and slice our lemons, or lemon. And let's get that juiced. And while we're at it, since we're playing with knives, let's give our raisins a rough chop. That'll do it. And that is that. Now I've taken the liberty of putting everything into a straining bag. Now you don't have to. I mean, you're going to end up straining all of this out. You can either do it now or you can do it later. So we're just going to go ahead and put that in our pot. And let's go ahead and add in our water. All right, let's go ahead and let's get the stove on. I'm going to set it for medium, but hey, you know, it's just whatever number suits you well. And then following that, we just want to put our top on and let that come to a boil. Now that our ginger tea mixture has come to a boil, we can now do a couple of things. One, we can turn off the heat. And 2, we can go ahead and add our sugar, which, by the way, was 4 cups of packed sugar, which is came to the entire bag, and the bag was 32 ounces, or 2 pounds, or 907 grams for you non-imperial folk. So we can go ahead and add that now. I just want to get it in there and give it a good stir. Put the cover back on and let that come down to room temperature. With our juice mixture now down to relatively room temperature, we can go ahead and begin the process of moving it from the pot to the carboy. Using freshly sanitized equipment, let's go ahead and extract our ginger mixture. Move that off to the side for a moment and begin the process of transferring everything from here to here. The fact that it's gurgling like that, incorporating some oxygen into the mix, is actually a good thing. Because later on, our yeast is going to need that extra oxygen to go ahead and the process of creating this into wine. All right. Now in this particular case, we've overflowed it just by a little bit, which is a bit more than what we actually need. So we're gonna pour off some of the excess, and we're gonna save that for something later on, because the next time that we rack it, in about a week or 2, we can actually pour this back into the carboy instead of water to keep from weakening our wine. All right, that having been done, we can go ahead and add our lemon juice, which is acting as our acid blend substitute, which is going to help incorporate some brightness into the wine. Basically, it won't taste as flat. And then following that, we want to go ahead and add the yeast. Now, using that leftover mixture that I had before I put the yeast in, taking a hydrometer reading off of that comes in at 1.076. Again, we're only using 1/4 teaspoon of wine yeast, which is all we need. And try not to just dump it in there, but as best you can, just slowly incorporate it. Now, if you're more comfortable with blooming your yeast beforehand, please go ahead and feel free. That works just as well. I've never had any problems with doing it this way. Put a cap on for the moment. And let's move on. Let's go ahead and put an airlock on our carboy. Jug, demijohn, take your pick. Already filled up to the correct levels. And one of the last things we need to do for this part of the operation is to go ahead and label our creation. We are making ginger wine. We started making it on this date, and our original gravity reading started in at 1.076. Now then, we'll let it sit in the carboy for the next several weeks until we start seeing a layer of sediment building at the bottom, at which point we'll rack it into a secondary carboy and continue that process until the wine becomes clear over the next several months. It'll be about a year before I decide to go ahead and bottle this and give it a tasting at that point. Now, I have seen videos where this is being drunk after several weeks. I mean, that's entirely up to you. But I tend to believe that the longer you wait, the clearer it will get and the better it will be. Now, you can probably look at the link above and see some of the follow-up operations, which includes the subsequent rackings and eventually the degassing and then the bottling, that whole process to find out what the next steps are going to be before we actually get to taste this ginger wine. Okay, it's now been 12 months since we started making our ginger wine. It's now for that 12-month taste testing. A couple of things before I get started. This was bottled very, very late, like about 2 hours before I started shooting this video. So much so that when I did the bottling, the last bottle ended up being that much short of being a completely filled bottle. So I decided a couple of things. One, whereas as you normally hear me say that it's been pasteurized, this one was not. No point in putting it in with the rest of the bottles. Did not affix the label to this particular one. I mean, why go through all the time and effort to scrape it off from just doing it just for this one video? And I did not put in a cork, so I saved myself a cork in doing that. Basically, just the aluminum cap that I would normally use when I'm pasteurizing my brews, which is what I do because I don't use stabilizers. So we're just going to get right to it. A couple of things. One, ginger wine, born 9/20/21. ABV came in at 11.29%. And despite what the label says in fine print, this one has not been pasteurized. Okay, enough of that. The only tastings that I did was when I back sweetened a lot, just after, or actually during the process of degassing. So I only know that it's sweet enough for my taste. I did have an initial impression, but it's not like pouring a glass and getting a real impression. The wine was slightly hazy. I mean, okay, it's acceptable. I was kind of amazed that it kept a rather dark color, well, amber color, deep amber color. Seeing as how when you're making something with ginger, it's usually kind of a light colored fruit or light colored vegetable, root, tube, or whatever you want to call it. Always do that nose test, even though I know it's safe to drink. On the nose, yeah, you do get the ginger. It's not one of those wines where the flavor is so subtle that you can't smell the fruit that you made it with, but no, the ginger is there. And so is the alcohol. It's not like overpowering, but you can tell that 11.29%, it's there. I'm glad most of my wines now have gotten the alcohol level down to a more reasonable level. Let's see what we got in the glass. It's like drinking ginger ale. It's like drinking a flat ginger ale. I'll put it to you that way. The ginger flavor is definitely there. I won't say it's overpowering. Ginger sometimes can have a tendency to be kind of spicy. Yeah, it's a little spicy. I mean, it's not like hot spicy or anything like that. But I think it's one of those wines where as you continue to drink, the spiciness will continue to build. Overall, it's not bad at all. I think I would like to try this as a mead. I don't need this. I would like to try this as a mead at some point. I think it would really work with the honey, but as a standalone wine, yeah, it's very drinkable. In fact, lately, I've had a string of wines that have actually turned out pretty well, quite good. If you've seen my channel, you've seen any of my taste testing videos, standalone ones at least, if it don't taste good, I want to let you know about it. Yeah, just because I make it, that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to like it. And if I don't like it, then I'll give you a heads up. Hey, I don't like it, sort of thing. In any event, I like to keep my tastings as short as possible. So again, my take on the ginger wine 12 months later, it's definitely worth making. The ingredients are relative. How much was that ginger? I forgot. I don't think it was that inexpensive, but if you can get your hands on some inexpensive ginger, yeah, go ahead and give it a shot. It's definitely worth the wait. Yeah, I like it. So there we go, 12 months later, ginger wine. And I'll see you in the next video. Again, if you like what you see here, please click on that subscribe and notify button. It doesn't hurt to click on that favorites button for an instant donation. All donations are welcome. And again, memberships and Patreons support is always welcome. So once again, I'll see you in the next video.